Yes?
UFOs, right?
I'm Mike,
This is Kevin.
and we're with the Rolling Toe Show.
We are. We do that every Sunday.
We're also MD Alignment Services.
We do that every day.
And we're going to do a little discussion here of shock absorbers.
Shock absorbers, shock absorption.
Yes.
Not just little pistons.
We're not talking about electrical shocks here.
No electrical shocks. We're not. I'm kind of an electrician, but not.
Not there.
Right.
Okay. So what is a shock absorber and why is it?
Well, to start with, there's too much action in the suspension for just the springs to handle.
Correct, depending on the kind of spring.
Right.
So you have two different types of springs that we use in trucks. The old style standard suspension is a multi-leaf stack of springs.
Back before they even used shocks at all.
They didn't really use them much because with a multi-leaf stack, the springs got progressively longer, either upside down or right side up, with a short one on the bottom and a long one on the top. And as the spring was compressed and flattened out, the shorter springs scraped against the spring next to it, and that abrasion reduced the rebound, which is what the shocks are supposed to control.
Being the problem.
The shocks don't absorb shock. The shocks control rebound.
Rebound is the problem.
Right. So if you had a rubber basketball and you bounced it on the floor, it just wants to bounce, 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 bounce. But if you put something in the rubber ball to control the bounces, it'll bounce once or twice and then it'll stop.
And stop. And how useless would that be in your basketball?
For a basketball, that would not be a good thing.
Right.
But on a suspension, when you put an airbag on it and there's nothing to control the rebound, it's just like that basketball going down the road.
Right.
So we have to add a shock absorber or a rebound control.
Up through the suspension.
What absorbs the shock is the leaf spring.
The leaf spring absorbs the shock.
And what
What is the shock doing when the leaf spring
the shock
absorbs?
controls the rebound of the leaf spring.
Okay, so the shock is often air over hydraulic or hydraulic total. And the liquid in the shock absorber is compressed.
It moves it from one chamber to another chamber, and the more full the second chamber gets, the stiffer it becomes.
Stiffer in this way or this way?
Up and down.
Both ways.
Both directions.
Both ways. I
Yes.
see.
Yes.
The more the fluid fills,
Yes.
the suddenly
And
stiffer.
and it controls the rebound. So you have a leaf spring.
Yep.
One leaf spring. A monoleaf. Some are monoleafs.
Some are.
And it's a full length of pin to pin. And when you hit a bump in the road, that spring will bounce up and bounce down and bounce up and bounce down until,
Brings the axle closer to the frame and then further away.
yeah, until it stops. And if it does it on its own, it's kind of like a rubber ball bound, bouncing down the road.
It just never really stops.
Well, it will eventually stop.
Eventually, yeah.
Okay. What the shock does is attach between where the spring attaches to the axle and where it attaches to the frame and reduces the number of bounces.
Okay.
A typical hydraulic shock absorber has a 3-stroke lockup. It'll let you bounce 3 times and then it stops itself. So instead of going 8, 10, 12 times, just 3 times.
I like 5 bounces. Can I get a 5 bounce hydraulic shock?
You're really a pain, you know that?
I'm just wondering.
I have no idea. All right. Gas.
Well, okay, so you're saying that after 3 good bounces, that second chamber is going to be full.
And it'll lock up.
And if it doesn't fill on that in 3 bounces, if it never really fills,
Then it's broke.
it's broke. It isn't that there wasn't enough bounce.
No. If it won't lock up, then it's not transferring enough fluid. It won't fill the chamber. It's no longer a shock absorber.
Okay.
Actually, it's no longer a
Vital.
rebound stopper. Okay? A gas pressurized shock only bounces once because the pressure chamber is always full.
See, and I wouldn't like that because I like 5 bounces. We wanted it more like a basketball.
You like a water bed too.
We'd want
Hydraulic.
I guess what would it be? Would it be a larger chamber?
No,
second chamber?
the size of the chamber isn't the trick. It's the valving.
Valving.
And there are some automotive and motorcycles that have adjustable valving that you can turn on the outside of the shock absorber, which changes which valve orifice is going to feed.
Good, because I'd like a 5 bounce rather than a 3.
Great. Buy yourself an adjustable and fix yourself.
More.
Yeah.
I want
I see. Okay, fine. He likes water beds.
Right.
Anyway, that's what a shock does.
And bouncy.
You like
houses,
bouncy?
bounce houses. You ever been in
Bounce
a bounce
house?
house?
You like a bounce house?
Yeah.
That's no shock.
No shock absorption.
No shock absorbers at all. All right. Our point of view is tire wear
Yes.
and handling. You don't want this bouncing up and down, which causes you to lack control of your directional control. So you want a decent shock to stabilize it, to make it more solid. We also don't want the tires bouncing up and down the road, which causes cupping. So you need a shock to control that rebound. Okay?
Right.
Now, having said that, in the fleets we go visit all the time who are complaining about tire wear problems, or the tire companies take us out to somebody who's got tire wear problems, I cannot remember in the last 25 years when I said the problem is your shocks.
You need different shocks. These
Or-
shocks are not
Yeah,
doing the job.
I've never run into that. Anytime I did go out there and find that a shock was bad,
Yeah.
the fluid had blown out of it, or the bushings were gone, or it was just broken in half, the shock wasn't the principal cause of the problem.
Right. There's something else. There's always something else literally causing the tire wear.
Yes.
The shock maybe is supposed to help dampen.
But the shock got damaged because there was another problem that was causing the shock to work too
much
hard.
shock.
Right.
Constant wear.
Right. We just recently on the podcast on Sunday night had a guy call in and he says, my original shocks went 240,000 miles and then the shock in this one wheel position went out and the tire cupped. And so I got this more expensive shock and I put it on there, and now 40,000 miles later the rubber bushings in it are gone. Do I need a better shock? No, what it's telling us is there's something causing that wheel to jump too much in that position. We need to find out what that problem is
Would be
and
nice
fix
to
it
know.
so that the shock can do its job.
Right. Or is $100 every 40,000 miles a reasonable expense?
Yeah.
I guess that's the question.
I don't think $100 every 40,000 miles is ever reasonable expense, particularly since his original shocks went 240,000 miles.
And didn't blow out the bushings.
Right, so something changed in the last 40,000 miles of that old shock, and now he's got a problem, and the shock is trying to control it, and it's too much work for the shock.
Shocks
Okay.
are working hard.
Shocks are working hard. And I think that's about it for shocks. Do you have anything else?
Is that it? Let's see. We covered the old style shock absorption,
With the leaf springs,
multiple leaves.
we talked about you got to add a rebound control to an air ride suspension, and you need an air shock rebound control in a parabolic leaf spring where they're all the
Parabolic
same
springs,
length,
all of-
because
yes.
they don't have any slipping pieces that is going to cause
No,
it to
there's
stop.
not, yeah, you can even have single leaves where there's
And-
just no slippage at all.
And shocks are typically not the principal cause of irregular tire wear.
Typically. And
Typically.
when we say typically, we're actually talking about
99.99999%
99.999%
of the time, it ain't the
almost
shock.
every single time.
Yeah, we want to fix the shock, but what caused the shock to go bad?
Right.
Okay?
Okay.
Thank you, folks. Have yourselves a good day.
All right.